Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar for today. Today, we have a very special guest. I'm very excited. I was actually just saying to Marni, I am a member of her fan club. I've seen Marni speak at the ICF, event in Los Angeles. She is amazing and absolutely phenomenal. And I just feel really, really lucky that we actually were able to get her for today as a successful coach. She's super, super busy. So for anybody out there right now who isn't familiar with Marni, I'm going to just tell you a little bit about her. Marni is an iPEC graduate, and I believe that she started back in 2009, and she'll correct me if I'm wrong, but she started out as a nursery school teacher making about $24,000 a year. And she graduated from iPEC, and she built Dating with Dignity and became one of the leading coaching companies in the dating and relationship niche in under 8 years. So Marni is the author of 2 Amazon bestsellers. She has made appearances on Loveline with Dr. Drew Pinsky and On Air with Ryan Seacrest. She's been featured in Cosmopolitan magazine in addition to a host of other media outlets. And she has consistently grossed over, brace yourself, remember, this is in under 8 years. She's consistently grossed over $1.2 million per year from her business, Dating with Dignity. Go to the website, check it out. It's an awesome website. And she has also raised over $150,000 to support the Just Like My Child Foundation's Girl Power Project operating in Uganda, Africa. So with no further ado, I'm actually going to let this amazing person speak and maybe flesh that out and tell us a little bit more about her recent adventures. I'm pretty sure there's something having to do with shark cage diving that recently happened. So Marni, do you want to say hello to everybody?
Well, thank you for that very kind and very generous introduction. Yeah, so, part of, you walk the talk as a coach. And so I attracted into my life an amazing man who allows me to stretch outside my comfort zone, which is doing a lot of crazy adventures. Well, they're crazy to me. So I have done great white shark cage diving in South Africa. I've rappelled down waterfalls in Mexico and done coasteering, which is a sport so crazy they don't even do it in America. I did that in Ireland, where you jump off of cliffs. That was crazy. And most recently, I went night diving and saw 16 to 40 foot manta rays, literally like in the water. So I am constantly feeling like alive, which is really fun and super outside my comfort zone.
Wow. Okay. So just to put this in perspective for everybody out there, especially if you're just now joining us, Marni was a nursery school teacher and a divorcee. She goes to iPEC coaching, learns how to coach, but also, as you go through iPEC's training, you don't just learn how to coach, you really become a coach. So it also changes how you show up in the world. As she just said, she attracted this person into her life. She's building her Dating with Dignity coaching business. She's now grossing over $1.2 million per year. She's able to raise $150,000 for her charity, the Just Like My Child Foundation's Girl Power Project. And she's living a life that, I don't know about anybody else out there, but for me, I'm like, I would like to live that life. So, and this is all in under 8 years. So this is another reason why it's amazing that we were actually able to get Marni for today's call, because as you can tell, she has a very full calendar and a very full life. And so we are going to be asking her some questions. And what we also want to do is be able to open it up to you guys to ask some questions. So if you're joining us through the actual webinar link, down below, you're going to see a little folder. It says Q&A. You click on that folder, you'll be able to ask a question there. And if you're joining us from Facebook Live, you can just simply write a question into the comments section. Now, we have somebody who's monitoring both of those. And what they're going to do is they're going to send those questions to me. And so I'll be able to read those out to Marni, and we'll be able to kind of answer as many questions as we can. While we're waiting for those questions to come in, Marni, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit with us about your specialty and how you coach and do what you do, and also a big question that people ask, they get really worried about how to choose a specialty. So if you wouldn't mind sharing with us, how do you choose that particular specialty? I'm sure we've got some people who'd like to know the answer to that.
Well, that's a really fun question. So I got divorced, I ended up attracting basically a better looking, younger version of my ex-husband. And when that didn't work out, he cheated on me. You know, I had this like, oh, this is going to be amazing. It did not work out that way. I sort of had this moment in my life where I was like, you know, who do I want to be? I have 3 daughters. And I knew that if I couldn't change for myself, that I wanted to make a change for them, because I didn't want to pass on this legacy of choosing the wrong men. So I started on my journey, and I thought, you know what, I'd love to write. And so I started writing this book, and it was kind of like a humor, but self-help book, just really about my own journey. And I was really excited about it. And I met somebody who introduced me to this person. He was like, oh, he's a coach. He's written a book, like Simon and Schuster, really successful. Like, you know, so I had this kind of networking conversation, which I'm sure many of you, you know, there's somebody who refers you to somebody.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, I want to write this book. I'm going to be famous. And he was like, so let me tell you, a book is not a business. And he said, I wrote this book, and we were on the Today Show, and we traveled around, and, you know, Simon and Schuster, we got a big advance. And he was like, and let me just tell you, that's not a business. And so I was in the journey, and I was asking myself really high quality questions and doing some volunteering, kind of doing facilitation. And I talked to another coach, and I was like, I'm thinking of it, you know, I'm writing this book and I'd like to share, and I want to share my story. And he was like, well, you are a coach. I mean, you're good at it. You're doing it, and you don't even realize you're doing it. And I was like, well, I'm helping people, but I don't really think I'm coaching people, right? Like, I'm giving them advice. I'm sharing my experience. And the lightning bolt hit that day in my kitchen. I'll never forget the moment. And I was like, I do want to do this. But the one thing about me is I don't half-ass anything. I'm going to learn how to do it, because I did know that I knew enough to know that there's a big difference between being a therapist, being a person who gives really good advice, and being a coach who creates transformation and results. And I had to learn how to do that. So
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, right. So, and, you know, for better or worse, I didn't do a ton of research. I talked to a couple of companies, and when I found iPEC, I was clear that this was the coaching school for me, because of the core energy coaching model. It was totally in alignment with my own journey, my own beliefs, and it had a structure. I was a teacher, you know, had my master's in education. Like there was structure, there was transformation, there was support. I knew that if I wanted to do this, I had to believe in myself, and so I set out to get the credential to back it up.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy you started talking about that, because we actually have a question from David. And hi, David, out there, by the way. And David did ask, he said, why did you decide on coaching, and why did you choose iPEC? So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, coaching. So here's the thing, in my own journey, reading, researching, Googling, like that's information and education. It's not transformation. And in order to create a change, I knew that my own beliefs about myself had changed. And so I had to figure out how to teach people, how to coach people into that. Because what I know is that you can't think your way out of your thoughts, or else you would, right? We'd be like, oh, I'll just believe I'm confident. It's just not like that. So I knew that my life changed dramatically. I wanted to pay it forward. I wanted to not only share my strength, experience, and hope, but I wanted to empower people to do the same. So that's why I chose coaching. I also looked vaguely into becoming a therapist or a social worker. I was like, that's going to take a long ass time, and there's so many restrictions, and I can't make as much money, and it's $1 per hour model, and I don't want to be a therapist. Like, I don't want to sit in a room or on the phone for 12 hours in a row and therapize. So I picked coaching.
Nice. Okay. And thank you so much for addressing that, because I know there are a lot of people out there who, one, they don't understand the difference between therapy and coaching, and they do want to help, and they're not really sure which direction to go in, either therapy or coaching. So that's a really nice differentiator for anybody out there who is, asking themselves, which direction do I go in? Because there's definitely a difference.
And let me just share this, because I just spent a week with two of my best friends who both are really successful therapists. And we had some really interesting conversations. I'm talking they're really, really, really successful. And my one friend, Matt, he literally can't take any more people. Like, he already works 4 days a week, 8 in the morning till 10 at night. And he's getting referrals and he's getting referrals. And he's telling me, well, as therapists, we can't really leverage. And then his wife, who's also a therapist, was like, as therapists, our industry has even changed. We're doing so much more coaching than we're doing therapy, right? But there's so many limitations. So for those of you who are already therapists or social workers, become a coach, get certified in coaching. And if you're choosing, really ask yourself the question, what is the lifestyle that I want? Do I want to teach one-on-one? Do I want to teach one-on-many? Really look at the lifestyle and restrictions and opportunities that both professions offer, because they're very, very different. And you want to be able to choose a path that takes you to the life and lifestyle that you want.
That's so important. Choosing a path that takes you to the life and lifestyle that you want, because that's where you get that's where your soul gets sustained and where you stay passionate and keep going. Now, you also just touched on it for a sec about why you chose iPEC, because there's so many schools, especially now, lots of different options. What was it about iPEC that made you say, yeah, that's definitely the one that I want to go with?
Well, so iPEC has this coaching model called the Core Energy Coaching Model. And it is a system that is something that you learn. So it's a skill that you learn to coach people on their beliefs and shift their beliefs. And the model is very structured and very tangible. So while I'm all into spirituality and woo-woo, what I like about the Core Energy Coaching Model is that it's a tangible, finite, structured way to understand energy, right? The law of attraction, which I'm totally down with, but I need something tangible. And the clients that I work with, are like versions of my former self. So they have very linear brains. Like, my clients love this model because they can name it, they can touch it, they can feel it, they can learn it, they can internalize it. So I chose it because of that model. I also really believe that to learn a skill, this is my opinion and my experience, I didn't want to do something that was become a coach in 3 days. I wasn't really looking for the easier, softer way. I wanted a deep cut. In my life, Band-Aid solutions never seemed to provide their results. And I wanted a premium product. I consider myself a premium person, even though at the time I was broke. And really in debt, but I was like, you know what?
That's why I love her.
I was gonna swear, but I decided not to because we're on Facebook. But I was really broke. Okay. But I was like, I want a premium product. And what does that mean? High service. It's going to have live components, right? So I want interaction. I just don't want to be in this giant ass digital cattle call where they're like, give me your money, listen to these videos, see you later. I wanted practice. So there was a component. The other thing when I talk to people about coaching, and I think you guys still do this, but all of the pieces that you're required to get a certification by the ICF are incorporated in the curriculum. So I had these friends who were doing a little bit here and a little bit here and having to hire outside a mentor. It just sounded like a nightmare to me. It's I want to go into one place. I want to have everything at my fingertips. I want it to be high touch. I want it to be high support. I want it to be high service. I want it to be results oriented. And the icing on the cake, which I didn't know, which I got, was a community. And so I went to a lot of universities in my lifetime, and I will say that I'm the most proud to be an alumni of iPEC. I'm still in touch. I took the master's program. It's a community and people care. And to me, I want to be in an organization that cares about serving people and changing the world, not just getting my dollar, because coaching's hot right now.
Awesome.
That was my passion speech.
No, I love your passion speech. It's re-inspired me too. I was like, yes, yes, yes. Those are a lot of the reasons why I chose iPEC as well. Yeah. Now, I'm going to ask a question that I kind of sort of already know the answer to, because guys just know I am really a Marni fan. I have seen her speak before because she's amazing. What is the one thing that in your opinion, that you do differently that has made you super successful versus all the other people that have been through any coach training program, not just iPEC? Because no matter what program you go through, the fact that you're doing $1.2 million per year from your business, I mean, that's absolutely amazing success level. So what do you think is the one thing that you do differently versus any other person out there that, you know, not just hasn't attained that success, but maybe hasn't even gotten off the ground yet?
I think there's a lot of different things, but the thing that I'll talk to you first about is regarding that core energy coaching model. So when I very first started, you know, at the kind of the end of the training ish, I was presented with this opportunity to do to offer this assessment using the energy model to my clients. And
the assessment that we teach you on, the ELI?
Yeah, the ELI. Okay, so the Energy Leadership Index Assessment. Okay, so I'm sitting in this class, you know, like we have these moments, right? You know, when who's listening where you're like, and that was the moment it all changed for me. And I was super down. I like was one of those, started my business like in the middle of the train. Like, you know, I was like, I'm not waiting. You know, my thing was like, my prices are this, and when I graduate, they're going to be more. So you should work with me now. But anyway,
I did the same thing.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I'm for real. So sitting there and I was like, oh my God, this tool will help people identify where they're stuck. It will show them the gap between where they are and where they want to be. It will be an awesome way to get paid to do like what people would call a discovery session or a consultation or whatever it is. And the way that we use it now, so I started off doing that as a way to like, you know, have sessions and engage clients. So I would do the ELI, they'd pay me a small amount. I'd show them where they are, where they're stuck. We looked at the gap and people would want to work with me. Now, I don't do that anymore, but the way that we use it now is that for our coaching clients, our high-end clients, we actually teach them this model. We give them the assessment, we coach around it, and every 6 months to 9 months, they take another assessment so they can track their progress.
Yep.
So what makes me different from any other dating coach? I can't guarantee that you're going to find a boyfriend. That's not really what I'm in business to do. But I can say pretty much, well, I can say it, like 100% of the people that go through our program and do the work have an increase in their ELI score. So their overall life satisfaction goes up, their happiness, their contentment, their productivity, their relationship. Literally, we have data that shows if you work with us, you will get a result. People want to know, like, you know, especially in coaching, there's so much bullshit out there, pardon me, you know, and people making fake promises, and it's getting competitive in that way. And so I love that I can say, look, I've been doing this for 8 years. I have data that shows people who work with me, they get results. And you know what? As a result of that, then they get a boyfriend, then they get a husband, then they get a partner. So that makes us stand out from anyone really that's doing what we're doing.
Yeah. And so everybody out there, just in case you might be a little bit lost, what Marni is talking about is when you go through iPEC's coach training, you get 2 certifications. One, you get certified professional coach, which is the professional skill set of coaching. We teach you lots, and I'm not going to go, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because I don't want to waste our time with Marni. But what she was just talking about with there was the Energy Leadership Index Assessment. That's your second certification. You are also designated as an ELI MP, which is Energy Leadership Index Master Practitioner. And so what she's talking about is when she started her business, she would use that assessment as a differentiator and say, hey, I know there's this whole coaching thing and everybody's going to have a conversation with you, but I can show you on paper what's going on for you. Now, another thing that she touched on is that she didn't use the word, but it's about scaling your business. So this is about going from getting 1 client, 2 client, 3 client, 4 client. Now you have groups, now you have repeat clients. And so she's talking about using the ELI to gather that data, and also so that her clients can see on paper that they have made progress with her. Because that's another big one that you're going to get asked if you're choosing to be an entrepreneur in coaching is, well, how am I going to know whether or not I'm getting the results? I know you say that I'm going to feel different and all of these things, but how will I know? And you can say, well, because I have this handy assessment that I am an expert in utilizing, and you can take it in 6 months. You can take it again in 6 months. You can take it again in 9 months. you can actually track your progress. So that's everything that Marni was talking about. It's a huge differentiator, and she was really, really smart to design her business utilizing this, because in her own words, it really does separate her from all the other coaches that are in that specialty. Awesome, fantastic. So yay. And that's awesome too. Martina wanted to know, how soon after completing your coach training program did you start your own business? But it sounds like you started while you were in coach training.
I did. So I scheduled my first event, like literally right when I did my first live. There's live components at iPEC, right? You meet in person. And so right around that time, I'd scheduled my first live event. It was a disaster, by the way, but I did it, and I learned a lot, so I can talk about that. But anyway, I started right from the get-go. I think, why have I been successful? Because I am 100% committed to what I call the mission of my soul. I am meant to do this. There is nothing that is going to stop me. I have had so many hills and valleys. It's not been like, yeah, Money Street. Like, I've had to dig freaking deep. And it's a reflection of my own journey. So I was just like, I'm starting this. And also I was making $24,000 a year. My alimony was going to run out. Like, there was never an option to quit, to get a job. It was just, I had a life vision for myself. So I started right away.
Awesome. Awesome. And that's everybody out there, like, we're seeing a lot of questions coming in about, like, how do you scale a business? How do you do this? How do you do that? I don't want anybody out there to miss what Marni is saying. And what she's saying is, start with one and don't wait. Yeah. The bigger stuff, you guys, you can't put the cart before the horse. Like, what Marni's talking about is, she just focused on getting one client, the next client, the next client. When she reached the point where she needed to scale, like, you'll feel this pressure of, like, I can't do this one-to-one thing anymore. Now I need a group program.
And I'll never forget the moment with my coach where I was like, so I have 40 clients. I'm doing the therapy thing. I'm like working at 10 o'clock at night to fit everyone in. I was like, there's got to be a different way. So, I just thought, I'm at this point where I need to figure out a different model, and then you adjust. And that's why you got to be committed. And that's why it's a spiritual journey. And you just, like, look at your result. One of my mentors, Mary Morrissey, says, the results in your life are the curriculum you need to learn, right? So I was like, oh, why, this is happening. It's not fun. What am I doing? What do I need to do? So I sort of did the process and figured it out and made the leap. But just work on getting clients first. Well, pick a school. Don't delay. Don't think about it. Just do it, and then be committed. And iPEC helps you. So you don't need to worry about the how. Just make the choice and then do it, and then trust the process. That's another really big iPEC morsel.
Yeah, definitely. Trusting the process. You also touched on another thing about, and you were talking about, a high quality product and curriculum. And we have some people that they kind of like race through it. And, I equate, I'm a rock climber, so I equate it to like tying your rope on, putting on your harness, getting on your shoes, and then holding your hands up and being like, okay, pull me up. And it's like, that's not what rock climbing is about. You actually have to do the climbing. So how, would you say, I don't even know really how to ask this, but how much time did you spend on the curriculum? Did you deep dive it? Did you rush through? What really was, how did you internalize all of it to be able to start working with those clients?
So I love this question, because I'm when I do enrollment calls, a big flag for me, like a red flag, is when someone says, how much work is this? Because I'm all, well, you just told me that, X, right? In my instance, finding a partner is the most important thing in your life. So only if it's easy, only if it's 4 hours a week. And when I ask that to people, they're like, oh shit, you're right. Right? So here's another little tidbit, and I'll answer the question about how I did it, but I think this is an important piece. I'm all about taking 100% personal responsibility for your results. And so most people think courage comes first and then commitment, right? Like, oh, I just got to get the nerve up to invest in iPEC, or I've just got to get the nerve to quit my job, or I've got to get the nerve, I've got to get the courage, and then I'm going to be committed. And that is BS. Once you commit, for the committed, everything, you find the resources, you find the time. So commitment comes, then courage. So how much time did I put into it? As much as it took to feel really confident to go sell my services. So I listened to the teleclasses. I practiced with my partner. I did the assignment. I mean, like, I had 3 little kids at the time. I was working. I did a lot. I just found the time to do it. And it was internal, right? So when do I feel confident? Because you're becoming a coach while you're going through it, you get really more clear on your own intuition and confidence. And so it's like an upward spiral, self-fulfilling process. But the more you put into anything, people, the more results and the better results you get.
I'm so happy that you were speaking to that. And it's funny because somebody typed in, it wasn't a question, it was a comment. They're like, you're answering my questions as I'm typing them. So this is perfect because
Pretty mind meld, people.
because you were talking about, it really is about becoming a coach. And that's one thing we kind of struggle to have people really understand. You're not just sitting there like learning something to do it. You're experiencing the power of coaching. You're being coached, you're coaching, like you are going through all of these same things that you're going to help other people go through, that are either your external clients if you want to be an entrepreneur, or your internal clients if you're working at a company and trying to bring in a coaching culture to your company. Yeah. John wanted to know, he's kind of, and I'm going to, John, if you're listening still, I'm going to kind of squish your question with a few other questions that are coming in because they're kind of similar. But basically, what a few different people are wanting to know is the whole coaching thing seems a little, or can seem a little woo-woo. And so do you work with executives? How do you work with an executive person from a coaching standpoint? Like, John asks, is iPEC a viable institute to pursue executive coaching for businesses?
Hell yes. Because, so here's the thing, and I'm running this company and whatever. So leadership, you can call it whatever you want, woo woo, whatever. Leadership is also a spiritual journey, right? It's being the most fully expanded person that you can be to your optimum, to lead, to inspire, to negotiate, to influence, to create opportunity. And so I work with, in fact, my niche is very, very successful women. I work with attorneys. I work with engineers. I work with a lot of doctors, right? So very tangible, not woo-woo. I'm not the person who works with a lot of like healers. Those aren't my clients, right? So what my clients love about it is that it is very structured and it takes this concept of like a law of attraction, so to speak, and it makes it very tangible and very precise and very cognitive. So they can grasp it, right? And it's super empowering. Now, what's cool, and this has nothing to do with dating, but 100% of my clients end up applying this in their work. Mm-hmm. Become better leaders. They get promotions. They start businesses. I had a client who owned a restaurant. Her family owned this restaurant for years. The year that she started coaching with me about dating, her business doubled, then it tripled, right? After the next year. And then she got into a place of like her own soul. And she was like, I don't even want to be in the restaurant business, but it was so successful that then she could sell it for a really big payoff and pursue her passion, right? So when you do this work, because of the model, it takes very intangible concepts and makes it very cognitive, manageable, understandable. And so the impact that it makes on someone's career is priceless.
I'm so glad that you talked about that in the way that you talked about it, because one of the things that I tell people that are considering coming to iPEC and have this same concern is you aren't learning like you are a relationship coach. So that is a specialty. But what we teach you at iPEC, the core curriculum, is how to coach anyone, anywhere, anytime on any subject, because we're teaching the professional skill set of coaching. So you can take all of that learning and then you can apply it to your specific niche so that you can speak the language that your client speaks. And you also touched on earlier the ELI. And so, John, I'm just going to, specific to your question, because I coach executives as well, they love the Energy Leadership Index assessment because it's ROI. They're going to ask you, what's the return on my investment? And as an iPEC coach, you get to take this assessment and say, right here, you can see your return on investment. Like what Marni does is she has people take it in 6 months and then again in another 6 months, so they can see their own return on investment utilizing something tangible that they can hang on to. We're getting a few other, and I'm going to say Catherine. Catherine's asking a question, but there's a few other questions that are kind of similar. So again, Catherine, I'm going to kind of squish yours in with some other people's. Some people are saying, well, I'm this age or I'm that age, and like it's all over the spectrum. Some people are super young, some people are super old, and it's like, and I've got either a lot of experience or not a ton of experience. So how are people going to take me seriously? Like, what would you say to any of those people? And Catherine, thanks for being brave and asking that question, because it is a very personal question for people.
Yeah. So first of all, in my opinion, all you have to do is be 10% ahead of your clients. They just want someone who's been through what they've been through and is 10% ahead. You have to get really clear on who you want to work with. And then you also want to get really clear on your own confidence and your own ability, right? So I have people who, I'm 51, so I have people hire me who are in their 60s and 70s, and I have people who hire me who are in their 20s and 30s. It doesn't matter, right? Because the pain that they want a solution around is a pain that is ageless. And I have the expertise and I've been through it, right? And so I created the result. So they care less about my age and more about the fact that I get it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So now I would say, like, this is a great example. So there's a guy in my niche who's probably now, maybe by now he's 28 or 29. He's started 5 or 6 years ago in his early 20s coaching women on dating. Okay. Now there is definitely a set of women who are customers of this who would be like, I'd never hired this kid. He's super hot though. But this British kid, to coach me on dating. What does he know? Right? Like there are going to be some people that would say that. Let me tell you, this guy's like an international coaching superstar. He probably makes multi-millions. There's plenty of 50-year-old women that hire him because they resonate to him. Like whatever, because he's being authentic and he resonates to those people and he's confident. So, my age, that's just an excuse, right? Like you got to pick your lane, be confident, get the skills to back it up. And move forward, because guess what? There's only you. You're the only one of you. No one can copy you. You don't want to try and be like me or him or anybody, Aunt Tony Robbins. That's not the point. The point is there's only one of you. You have a gift. iPEC will help you bring it out. I think people are called to this for a reason, because there's something in us that is part of our gift. I think we do it without realizing it's a talent and it's worth a lot of money. So you polish the diamond, you get the skills, you get confident and you bring it to the marketplace. And so the right people, if you believe in you, don't care how old you are.
I love that answer. And thank you again so much for being here, because you are somebody who's experienced all of these things. So hearing all of this from you is like, guys, she's been there, she's done it. And speaking of that, probably most of the people on this call have heard my personal disaster story of like, because we've been talking a lot, it's come up often in this conversation about confidence. Like that's a big thing of, how do you do this coaching thing? How do you sell your services? All of that. How do you be successful? Big component of that is confidence. And so if you haven't heard my disaster story, after module 1, I was at a cocktail party. And I was so excited about, becoming a coach and, oh my gosh, this was amazing. And I'm somebody who's never picked up a self-help book ever. Like all this was brand new to me. I had no clue what I was getting into. I was just excited. I was talking about the new thing I was doing. And somebody said to me, that's awesome. I'd love to hire you. How much do you charge? And I was like, I totally froze. I was like, I think I kind of blacked out. I'm pretty sure what I said was something like, I don't know, how's $25 for like an hour? I mean, I didn't even know what to say. So that was my total disaster, crash and burn story. And now you mentioned earlier in the call, you had some sort of event that you were like, that was a disaster.
Oh, yeah.
If you wouldn't mind sharing that, because what I want everybody out there to know is that you can have a total disaster moment and actually turn it into an advantage, turn it into an opportunity, learn from it, grow from it, and still be successful. Like, mistakes are okay. There are no mistakes.
Yeah. You will have a disaster. I mean, I got like a list, right? And that's why it's a spiritual journey, right? So I'll just tell you the quick version of my thing is that I had this workshop. I was teaching. I had like a partner at the time. So it was a dating event, and I had a mentor, which was so nice. And he had a little mailing list, and he promoted it for me. So I had like 25 or 30 women show up. I did literally everything wrong that you could do. I thought it would be really funny if for a giveaway, I gave away condoms that said "Date with Dignity." People were like, "That's not funny." I thought it was funny. Anyway. So I did everything. I had a break in the middle, and literally, which was another probably snafu, people left, right? So after the break, like I'm standing there, people are like, there's like half the room. I'm like, oh God. And it was over, and my colleague, my mentor who promoted me got a message from someone who was like, I can't believe you promoted that person. It was just like bad news bears. But this mentor at the time was my coach. And he was like, this is awesome. He says, there's some guy who says feedback is the breakfast of champions, right? So at the time I was like, whatever, Matt, like feedback sucks. I hate this. I'm quitting. F everybody. Like, it was funny. Like I was just all up in my guard was up because I was so ashamed and humiliated. And he said, look, I've been in this business long enough to know that this is just the first time you have a disaster. So let's just get real. Are you committed? Like, are you willing to be embarrassed again? Are you willing to fail? Are you, like, you asked me a series of the are yous. And it's not like butterflies and rainbows, but I was like, yes, okay. I was like, shit, let me think about that. And I did. So I did. I really did, because I realized at that moment that I was going to have to pull myself up. I was going to have to see feedback as the breakfast of champions, and I was going to have to commit, and I was going to have to find the courage. And so I did. And, it was the first time that I realized, like, I'm meant to do this. I have to do this. I have to get out of my own way. I have to figure out what I learned from that disaster and do everything different next time. And so I did.
Nice. Awesome. And thank you for sharing that with all of us, because I would really love everybody out there to know these things are okay. It happens to all of us. It happens to the best of us. Marni is the best of the best. What's important to know, whatever it is that your challenge is, if it's your age, your lack of experience, your lack of confidence, your whatever, Marni had said previously, iPEC's going to help bring out the best in you. Okay. And that's really true. The thing is, you can't get in the game unless you're playing. So if this really is something that speaks to you, like, jump in, get started. Sometimes, like, you're going to land on your face, like myself and like Marni, and that's okay. Feedback is the breakfast of champions. That's fantastic. Now, one thing that iPEC does, and I'm sorry, I'm changing gears a little bit here. Just in the interest of time, I want you guys to get as much information as you possibly can. Something that iPEC is doing that's a little bit, that's a big differentiator from other coach training programs. We don't just have a coach directory where people can go and find people to work with. We actually now have a publishing platform called Live, Lead, Play. And I believe you have a podcast on that. Is that right?
I do not, I'm going to be honest. I don't know if my podcast is on Live, Lead, Play.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I don't know. I'm sure maybe the man behind the curtain would know. I have a podcast, but I don't know if it's on there. I mean,
well, I'm sure that it's on there.
Right? Awesome. Woohoo. It's on there.
I know, might have just admitted to being a little bit of a stalker right there, but
my people, I got people who tell me, I just show up and interview people. So yes, I'm on it.
Well, what's a little bit different from when you went through the program is iPEC. So iPEC's a living, breathing institution. Our founder, Bruce D. Schneider, is still involved in our program. Like, he created it. He's still creating and evolving it. And one of the things that we do is we actually have this publishing platform for a blog, a podcast, whatever, so graduates can get their voices heard. And the audience isn't just other coaches. We've spent time, money, we've really invested in creating a big audience. And so, surprise, your podcast is on there.
Yay, that's awesome. That makes me happy.
So going back to some of the questions that are coming in, we have another one who is wanting to know. She's saying, I'm sorry, I don't know if it's a she or he. It's by anonymous. No one knows what coaching is in my circle. So how do I explain to others what it is that I really want to do with my life?
Once you get into iPEC, you'll have a different circle. So that's kind of fun. Really though, right? Like to be around people who like are on the same path, it just expands your life. So I would recommend that. So the coach in me wants to know the question behind the question. But for marketing purposes, like what am I doing? I think that what you do is you do this, I'm pretty sure as part of your iPEC work, is you get clear on like, what is the specialty that I'm doing? And how do I sort of speak that based on who I am, my brand, my message? It's a really fun question too, because I still play with the answer. Like, what do you do? I mean, sometimes I say I'm a dating coach, but I'm like, am I really? Or I have an internet business and I help women figure out why they date the same guy with a different face again and again. And I help them stop that and find someone to love. Like that's one answer I give. I think the answer is multi-layered, And so I would say to anonymous, like, I think you probably know what it is that you want to do. Like there's this profession called coaching, and what it does is it helps people become the person they want to be to have the life they want to live. I mean, do you know what I mean? Like find it in your heart. What is it that change that you want to bring about in the world? What's the mission of your soul? And practice expressing that. And who cares if people get it or not? Because feedback is the breakfast of champions. And if they don't, you'll hone it and you'll figure it out. And then you'll put some magic sauce on it with iPEC and then you'll get clarity.
I love that. You're right. You'll put some magic sauce on it with iPEC. And you guys, Marni's totally right. There's a whole different tribe for you waiting at iPEC. She touched on it regarding community. So, Marni went through the program 8 years ago, almost 9 years ago, and she still participates in the community. So when you become a student of iPEC and then a graduate and then a certified coach of iPEC, you still have this amazing resource available to you, and it's your own community. It's everybody out there who's doing stuff. You get lost, stuck, whatever. There's a place for you to go with questions and support, and not to mention iPEC itself. Like, we're real people. Hi. So it really is a great place to be. We've got somebody who's asking, I'm not 100% sure I'm understanding the question. They wanted to know how long for a return on investment. I think what they're asking is,
when will I be making money?
Yeah, iPEC's not cheap. So like, how long did it take you to get the return on your investment of becoming a coach?
Oh my gosh. A month, 2 months, not that long. I mean, I think the price is not that much more than when I did it 7 or 8 years ago. I mean, so that's a great question, because it's like, what's your commitment level? I was hustling, right? So it was back in the day. So there wasn't even like as much social media. I was the girl putting flyers, having like little workshops at my house, putting flyers on people's car, going to the coffee shop and, with the little ripoff. I mean, I like left no stone unturned. I also got really clear on my value, and I charged a premium price. It's gone up and up and up, but I never started at $25 an hour. I'll tell you that. Right. And so,
yeah, that was me. That was my bad.
That was her bad. That was not my bill. But so it didn't take very, very long. And here's what's really cool is, in my latest evolution, the program that I'm now selling, I just invested like 8 or 9 weeks ago in a $9,000 program, which is kind of funny, because in the coaching, hiring coaches, like that can actually be like pretty low investment. I've spent way the hell more. And I love that this person's asking that question, because it's totally up to you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I made back that investment in a week. I made double that investment.
Yeah.
I think I made like $250,000 in 8 weeks. I mean, like, because that's who I am, right? So like you have the opportunity to earn that back based on your ability to push yourself, to work, to ask questions, to get support, to engage, to be uncomfortable. So it's up to you. It's not iPEC's responsibility to get you that return on investment. It's yours.
Thank you. Yeah. And I'm
sorry, but
no, I mean, because that's the thing, people do ask, they ask a lot of questions around, well, how do I build not only how do I build my business, but do I have 30-minute sessions, 45-minute, an hour? What about groups? What about this? What about on and on and on? And you've said a few different things that all touch on that. One is everybody is unique. Like, don't do it how other people do it, because that's not you. And it's got to be authentic and come from you, and nobody can copy you. And figure out what you want your life to look like. Structure your business so that it supports your life. And so I hope what everybody out there is hearing is there's no one particular way to do it right. It's whatever works for you. And to Marni's point, how quickly do you want to get back that return on investment? How hard do you want it? Like, how quickly do you want to work for it? It's really, all of this is up to you guys. The answers are within. And also, for me personally, the return on investment for me really wasn't about the money. It was really about the change that I experienced.
right.
I wasn't working at iPEC when I went through the program. I was actually unemployed. And so for me, I was unemployed during that time when the entire United States crashed. There were no jobs to be had. And I pulled the 10 grand out of savings. It was pretty much my entire savings. And I went to iPEC. And that was really, really scary. Because I was like, I really don't know how I'm going to pay rent. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I just took all the money and I gave it to this place. And remember, I had not read a self-help book. So the whole coaching thing, I was like, I'm not sure I'm in the right place. For me, halfway through the program, I realized it wasn't about the business for me. And it wasn't about the this and the that, all those tangible things. It was about shifting internally. And when I made the internal shift, no door was closed to me anymore. Instead, opportunity after opportunity after opportunity started to appear. So everything that Marni's been talking about, it really is what's going on for you. How wide open do you want to be? Are you committed? All of these things, and iPEC's going to help you grow in that, but it's really up to you. So I'm really happy that you're actually speaking to all of that. We do have another question that's talking about work-life balance specifically because you're a mom, and when you started this whole big thing and started your business, you had 3 small children, you were working, you're a nursery school teacher. So they were wanting to know, how do you balance your life and motherhood and learning to coach and then becoming a coach and all of that stuff?
So I think that what you do is there's something very busy people get the most done, right? So I have a lot of productivity strategies that I use in my life. And I'm really clear on my values. So my value of family is number 1. So I plan my schedule and my life around my family. So I now have 1 daughter in high school and the rest are in college. But when they were all at home, and even to this day, it says on my calendar, 2:30, pick up Willow. Nobody, my team knows, I do not work between 2:30 and 4:30. I just don't. I'm doing mom stuff. Now my daughter does homework. So I know that from 5 to 6, I could probably pick up another client. But also I like to, I'll be cooking, right? Because I like to cook. And that's also a great time for me to have a team meeting. Or if I'm taking a class, I'll be listening to something, right? So I stack my time. I work out and I'm listening to something. I'm a lifelong learner. I took the master's program. I'm always doing it. So I think that when you're clear on your values, right, you make your choices around what your values are. And I never compromise my children or my family. And what's super cool is now, 8 or 9 years later, I have a team and I can work from anywhere. And I was telling the team that I got to travel a lot over the last few months. So I worked a week at a hotel in this luxurious resort in San Diego. And then I went to Hawaii and I took 5 days off, and the time changed. I worked like from 6 to 9 and, had some calls, and I had the whole day free. And now I'm visiting my family, and when we're done, I'm going to go spend time. So like once you get there, right, like once you pay your dues, you build it with the lifestyle you want. And then you time block and you protect your values and your time, and then you just make shit happen.
Nice. Okay.
Delegate.
And delegate. I like that one.
Yeah.
I also love that you touched on discovering your values. That's a huge one here at iPEC. It's part of what you learn. It's what you learn to help your clients figure out their values, because it really does, like, if you are forcing things that are outside of who you are and are outside of your top values, it's always going to feel like a struggle. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I'm not sure people really understand that piece of it, and that's part of what iPEC teaches too. Again, you experience all of this before you start using it with other people. So you're going to go through everything that you're eventually going to work with your client on. Awesome. Well, I'm just looking at the clock, and unfortunately we are going to start to kind of wrap this up, because I know that you've got a schedule to keep. You're a very successful person. I want to keep you on track. So are there any other final thoughts or words of wisdom that you wouldn't mind sharing with all of us that are, want to be Marni when we grow up?
I think that the question to really ask yourself is, what I call it the mission of your soul. And maybe you don't know what your values are, but there's a reason that you're here, right? You did research, you logged in, you spent an hour on a webinar. There's a million things you could do with your time. So yes, you're going to make money. Yeah, there's all this possibility, right? But if your mission is to serve people and change the world one person at a time, right? If you know that that's what you're meant to do, don't waiting to get ready, getting ready to get ready. I always say, if I want to work with somebody, they have to be committed now, decisive, and resourceful, because for the committed, the resources always work out. I put my little iPEC tuition. I had to get I told you I was broken in debt. I had to get a family member. I took out a loan. For the committed, the resources always work out. For the committed, there's always time. So the big thing that I want to sort of leave with you is that, do the research. All of that. But if the mission of your soul is to make an impact and change the world one person at a time, and this is what your heart is longing for, let that drive you. Because from that place, not only will you do that, but you will have all the other pieces of your vision that are calling and pulling for you right now in your life. So let that be the thing that drives you. And then I personally think that iPEC's the best. So just do it. Just saying, changed my life.
Thank you so much. I happen to believe that too, so you're not going to hear any differently from me, everybody out there. I love what you just said. Let that drive you. Let that be your driver. Really decide if this is, what you're going to be committed to. And everybody out there, it's okay to be afraid. It really is. It's okay to not know what the next step is. As Marni said, once you commit to it, all of those things start to shift. And sometimes it can feel, I went through this myself, it felt like things were shifting not in my favor. I was like, I'm still not really sure. And then I realized I wasn't really committed. And so once I was like, okay, I got turned down for the loan because, again, didn't have a job, So I used a credit card, pulled money out of savings. Once I was actually really committed, that's when things started showing up for me. That's when opportunities started showing up for me. That's when things started changing for me. And then really be open, really throw yourself into it and decide, what is that best next step? Don't worry about the 10th step. What's the next step? Again, I'm going to bring it back to rock climbing. Yeah, I want to get to the top. First, I have to find the next handhold, and then the next foothold, and And that's where it's one client, second client, third client. You'll know when you're ready to have a group program. You'll know when you're ready to scale that business. Just focus on that best next step. So with that said, Marni, thank you so much for joining us.
That was fun.
Really.
Thank you.
Oh, like our pleasure. And hopefully you will be kind enough to come back and do this again at some point, because we loved having you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And
all right, everyone. Thank you.
Everybody out there, feel free to give us a call, speak with an admissions coach, make an appointment to speak with an admissions coach. They're not salespeople. It's going to be just like this. You can ask them questions. They'll ask you questions. And hopefully we will see you in class. So
Bye.
everybody out there, wish you a life and a profession of your choosing. And Marni, was there anything last thing that you wanted to say?
Be decisive and get on the phone.
Love it. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody.
Okay, bye.
Bye.